Welcome back, Focus Learners. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's explainer. We are taking a really fascinating journey from the foundational, let's call it the paper era of human resources, straight into the highly integrated pixel era of the modern workplace. If you've ever sat there and wondered how massive organizations manage thousands of employees without just completely losing their minds or, losing their data, well, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to break down the exact structural shift from manual HR records to dynamic, computerized information systems. So let me ask you this. How do modern companies actually keep track of their most valuable asset? In our data-driven tech world, information is literally the ultimate key. It's the currency you need to make critical business decisions. In the old days, this meant literally sitting there and manually browsing through handmade physical records. But think about today's complex business scenarios. We've got skyrocketing employee turnover rates, people wearing multiple hats with manifold roles and responsibilities. Manual tracking? It just doesn't cut it anymore. So here's our roadmap for today. 1. Basics of HR records. 2. Record-keeping principles. 3. The shift to HRIS. 4. Implementing your HRIS. And 5. Real-world applications. Just a quick note before we dive in, to make sure we're totally grounded in rock-solid academic truth, all of our material today is sourced directly from IGNO, the People's University. Specifically, we're focusing on their really comprehensive unit covering HR records and information systems. Okay, Section 1, the basics of HR records. Let's lay the foundation here. At its absolute core, an HR record is essentially the foundational memory of a company. By definition, it's a written document consisting of select information that is preserved, either manually or mechanically, for future reference and decision-making. It could be kept as a loose sheet, a logbook, maybe physical cards, magnetic discs, or even audio cassettes back in the day. Regardless of the format, these records provide the vital information a company desperately needs to administer literally any human resource function. Now, this organizational memory is made up of a bunch of diverse components. We're talking employee requisitions, job descriptions, attendance tracking, payroll, which includes things like PF and gratuity, leave balances, and performance appraisals, the whole shebang. And we track this data because it has a direct, massive implication on an organization's actual profitability. Having this data orderly means you can do comparative analysis over time, you can accurately report the true position of your HR function to top management, plus it's a game changer for controlling errors and fraud, like using your HR cost budget as a strict controlling device. Oh, and of course, it ensures you're legally compliant with major obligations like the Payment of Wages Act or the Payment of Bonus Act. Moving right along to Section 2, Record-Keeping Principles. You can't just throw data into a folder and hope for the best. Information has to be reliable, dependable, timely, and actually useful. To ensure this happens, HR follows 7 fundamental principles. First off, the data must be purposeful and clean, so clarity of objectives and simplicity ensure we don't just hoard redundant, confusing data. Next, it must be legally and practically sound. That brings us to verifiability and unbiasedness. This means absolutely no baseless assumptions or personal biases because, and this is absolutely crucial, non-verifiable information cannot be used as evidence in a court of law. Finally, we have usefulness, timeliness, and economy. These guarantee the data actually aids decision-making precisely when you need it without bankrupting the department. And that brings up a brilliant point regarding the business reality of our 7th principle, the principle of economy. Listen, record maintenance is not cost-free. It involves stationery, electronic gadgets, servers, and obviously human labor. Gathering voluminous, redundant data is just a massive waste of time and money. Therefore, the cost of maintaining your records must completely justify the usefulness of the information provided. It's like the golden rule here. The principle of exceptional facts and figures should always, always be your guide. All right, Section 3, the shift to HRIS. So eventually, trying to maintain these massive economical and verifiable records manually just hits a brick wall. When you compare the two, manually made records have a huge issue with retrieval. They are painfully slow and incredibly prone to getting stuck in isolated departmental silos. On the flip side, computerized records offer 24/7 accessibility. They can be maneuvered and sliced up for incredibly fast decision-making. In fact, if you integrate this into an enterprise resource planning or ERP software, you break down those individual silos entirely, shifting the whole organization to a fully, beautifully system-driven approach. Which brings us to our formal definition. A human resource information system, or HRIS, is a systematic, computerized database for the collection, organization, analysis, storage, and provision of HR information. I like to think of it as the central nervous system of a company. It provides data with far greater accuracy, drastically reduces the cost of summarizing that data, and possesses incredibly high data security and dependability. Let's break down the architecture of this central nervous system. It's really built on 5 key components. First is input. And remember the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. The utility of your output entirely depends on the validity of this initial data entry. Next up is the database itself, securely storing employee info like salary ranges and social security details. Third, we have programs, which are tailor-made software packages. Think along the lines of Oracle SAP. Fourth are modules. These are basically specific chunks of software for targeted tasks, like a module just for recruitment, or one for skill inventory. And finally, query output. This is the payoff. It produces the actionable reports you submit to management for critical decision-making. So why is this specific architecture so urgently needed? Well, HR managers require a massive information base to actually run audits and plan effectively. Take procurement, for example. They need to accurately track recruitment costs and measure if their selection tools are actually working. For development, they need to run cost-benefit calculations for training and map out succession plans. When it comes to compensation, it's absolutely vital to link wages directly to productivity and assess the true value of collective bargaining. And for maintenance, they urgently need to track things like absenteeism, turnover, and the root causes behind why employees are leaving. You just can't do all that on paper. Moving to Section 4, implementing your HRIS. Let's look at how a company actually builds this out, because trust me, it is a massive, highly strategic project. It's not like downloading an app on your lunch break. Phase 1 kicks off with idea generation, basically identifying the glaring lapses in your current system. Next, you run a feasibility study, which figures out both the tangible and intangible benefits, plus what it's going to cost you fixed and operationally. Then you pull together a dedicated project team. After that comes requirement specification. This is a vital document where the exact objectives of the HRIs have to seamlessly match up with top management's overarching vision. Finally, vendor analysis. Let's be real, in-house development is usually way too costly and slow, so finding the right outside agency based on timeframe and their capability is a crucial step. Now let's see how that rolls right into Phase 2. First is system development. This involves creating data dictionaries, drawing up flowcharts, and running test runs to debug any early errors. Next, obviously, is training your employees on the specific skills they'll need for the new tech. Then comes a really smart, critical step, parallel implementation. This is essentially a safety net, where both the old manual system and the new HRIS operate side by side. You keep both running until employees are totally comfortable, and only then do you safely disband the old system. Finally, maintenance is provided by the vendor, and evaluation acts as a thorough system audit to make sure you're actually reaping the expected benefits you planned for back in Phase 1. And finally, Section 5, Real-World Applications. The breadth of HR SIS utility on a daily basis is truly immense. I mean, there is practically no area of HR administration that doesn't benefit from this level of integrated speed. It supplies the hard data for manpower planning, helping you forecast future demand and supply. It enables computer-assisted recruitment, seamlessly tracking candidate sources and automatically scoring online selection tests. It builds dynamic skill inventories so you can instantly identify employees who are capable of filling sudden vacant positions. It handles salary administration, effortlessly printing payslips and immediately answering complex queries from the finance department. It even monitors medical history, accidents, and tracks the rollout of company welfare measures. It really does do it all. So look how far we've traveled from the loose, messy paper sheets of the past to the highly integrated, computerized modules of today. I want to leave you with a somewhat provocative question to really chew on. Is your organization's HR data sitting somewhere as a dusty, potentially biased archive? Or has it been transformed into a verifiable, dynamic central nervous system that is actively driving your business forward in real time? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep evolving, and I'll see you next time.